Property and the passions. The notion of property is central to Hume's discussion of the passions. It is easy, however, to ignore the actual content of Hume's observations and focus simply on his discussion of the relation of impressions and ideas in the passions. Hume states that the relation which produces most commonly the central passion of pride is that of property. This is not to say that Hume supports the source of pride. He mocks the vanity of some men in their possessions. Hume understands wealth in terms of the power we have of acquiring what pleases us and the conveniences of life. In modern terms, the lifestyle money can give us. Again, Hume's account reflects the importance of property for the social aims of the middling class. Indeed, all of the examples in which he discusses property can be seen to reflect the concerns of the middling class. The middling class knew that class status could not be acquired simply through money. Their reputation and social standing was also fundamental to the acquisition of class status. Hume claims that the desire to distance ourselves from our poor relatives and the fact that we desire the esteem of others are central to our desire for riches. In the Treatise 2.1.9, Hume recounts his observations of our pride in our external advantages. We are proud of our riches and endeavor to distance ourselves from those family members or ancestors who are poor. Moreover, the fact that our riches have been in the family for a long time, and more significantly that they have been passed down through an unbroken succession of males, are additional causes of pride. In the case of the latter, Hume states that we see the father as more important than the mother, and thus our imagination passes more easily from the father to the child than from the mother to the child. Because of this, we are more ready to transfer the honor and status of ancestors to the child through the paternal bloodline. Thus we can see that the child's social standing is tied to the father, not the mother. This then also emphasizes the need for the father to be sure that he is giving a social standing to his own child. Furthermore, Hume says our pride in our riches is increased if it has been passed down through an unbroken succession of males. Another reason that we can see why men are concerned that women are faithful. The same underlying connections play out in Hume's account of the passion of love. Those who are connected to us are always sure of a share of our love. Hume states, and it would be hard to disagree, that the strongest relation is that of the blood relation between parent and child. What follows from this is that without the certainty of women's chastity, men's love of their children will always be accompanied by uncertainty. It is also a point to notice here that uncertainty for Hume is not a minor state of mind. It is a troubling state of mind that has a strong connection with fear. Thus, the chastity of wives cannot be separated from the inheritance of property and its actual possession. Furthermore, the chastity of wives supplements pride and possessions in two ways. First, it guarantees inheritance through an unbroken male line and is therefore a direct cause of pride. Second, and perhaps more importantly, the certainty of possession, and therefore a cause of pride, in the sense that it will be transferred to one's own blood, depends entirely on the chastity of wives. In the discussion of esteem, a species of love for others, in his account of passions, Hume focuses on our esteem for the riches of others. In the Mirror passage, Hume explains that the pleasure of the rich and their possessions is transferred to us, and that our pleasure is then reflected back to the possessor of the riches. This different pleasure they gain from our esteem is then reflected back to us, and there is a new foundation for our esteem. Hume says that the secondary satisfaction, the esteem of others, becomes one of the primary advantages of riches, and is the main reason why we desire them for ourselves or esteem them in others. There is no direct connection to be made between this account of esteem for riches and the middling class concerns with social status. However, all of Hume's examples show that the pleasure we feel for our possessions is a pleasure in objects of quality and beauty. This reflects the way that middle-class standing in the 18th century was not just based on money alone. It came from how this money was spent. The finer the article, the more it transferred status onto its owner. Indeed, much of the world of Hume's passions is the world of the middling class, or at least their aspirations. Riches, but riches that were also about social status. With Hume's discussion of esteem for virtues in Book 3, more of a connection between the passion for esteem and the chastity of women can be made. He says that we feel esteem for all the artificial virtues, and then esteem and moral approval for those who possess them when we reflect on their characters. Furthermore, our feelings for one person naturally extend to others connected to them, their family. Thus, a claim can be made that the disapproval and contempt we feel for the unfaithful wife will reflect upon the husband and the family. Placed within a class context, the disapproval and contempt for the unfaithful wife felt by the upper classes would reflect upon the middling class. However, this claim needs to be tempered as, although the transference of passions is easily done, our passions descend more easily than ascend. They move less easily from wife to husband. A significant relation can be made among class. Chastity and the passion is the transference to others of the feelings of moral disgust at the unchaste woman herself, and her own feelings of shame. Hume states that we feel hatred for the vice of another, specifically their character, not any particular action they may have performed. Based on Hume's account, we will detest the unchaste woman, and the crucial thing here is that this distaste will transfer from one person to another. This transference is not immediate, but rather we infer this disgust from its causes and effects and feel accordingly. When we see the ostracism of the unchaste woman, we think of the cause, which is the disgust of others at her vice, and we form such a lively idea of this disgust that we begin to feel it ourselves. Conversely, when we see the unchaste behavior of a woman, we feel what will be its effects, for example, the effects on her husband. The capacity to transfer feelings from one to another comes about through sympathy, and for Hume, sympathy is the principle in human nature that produces all our sentiments of morals in the artificial virtues. What is important to recognize about this principle is that, even though Hume identifies sympathy as a universal part of human nature, he states that where there is a peculiar similarity in our manners, or character, or country, or language, it facilitates the sympathy. Placed within the context of a developing middle class, we can see that Hume's own account of human nature can be used to offer an explanation of the mechanism through which the desire for social status, gained through property and the accompanying virtue of the chastity of women, would have glued together the different sectors of this class. In modern terms, we would talk of the psychological mechanism through which a class consciousness was developed and preserved. Conclusion: these indirect relations that can be made between the goals and the concerns of the middling class and Hume's account of sympathy and the passions are not meant to be seen as a replacement for other interpretations of Hume. Rather, these relations add weight to a claim that 18th century concerns about the vulnerability and stability of possession, and the particular expression of these concerns in the shape of the virtue of chastity, would appear to be embedded in Hume's discussion of the artificial virtues. The virtue of chastity is not an atypical artificial virtue or an afterthought in a catalogue of virtues, and this conclusion becomes clear once the virtue of chastity is placed within its historical and cultural context.